About 3.5 years ago. Thank you, Don. I think it was 3.5 years ago this gentleman made his first appearance on the show. It was one of our trips out to California before we moved here permanently. And at that time, he was the executive treasurer of the Burbank City Council. And he came to give us some greetings from Burbank. And we asked him on the first day of 1975 if he would come back again. He is now the executive secretary, or the executive treasurer. What did I say first?
Well, I lost you.
Well,
he's been promoted.
He's been promoted.
Yes.
Would
It's
you
a high position.
Yes, it is. Would you welcome Mr. Philip Brooks?
I beg your pardon, I haven't gotten to my blue mark yet. Well, friends, it's been one... That's... I don't know, really, no kidding. Did anybody see anybody else beside me see a snake? Really was one here. And a baboon, and a gorilla. You know, it's strange that it would happen. But just not just a very few weeks ago, a sister-in-law of mine, who happens to come from my wife comes from Buffalo. What son of a gun? I thought I got the last one. I wish I'd known I had a choice. Well, the Buffalo Zoo had just received a shipment of the largest gorilla ever captured in captivity. That didn't even sound right over here. And my sister-in-law and her husband went to see the gorilla. They were standing there, and they were looking at it, and all of a sudden the gorilla spotted my sister-in-law, and he just couldn't take his eyes off her. And all of a sudden he went. And my brother-in-law nudged her, and he said, I think he kind of goes for you. And she said, don't be silly. And with that, the gorilla grabbed a couple of the bars and pulled them real far apart, reached out and grabbed my sister-in-law and pulled her in a cage and started pulling her clothes off of her and hugging her and kissing her. And she screamed to her husband, what am I supposed to do? He said, tell him you got a headache. You know, seeing those animals tonight, it sort of takes me back to my childhood when they used to have circuses, and they'd have and when I was a child, they used to have a parade before all of the circuses, you know, down Broadway in my hometown. And now that the two big, I don't think they do that anymore. Now that the two big circuses got together and got together, just one circus now. They call it the greatest show on earth. I think it's now they call it the darn ding-a-ling and barn banging brother circus. But and as I say, it takes me back to my childhood, and then now as I stand before you here tonight in my adulteryhood, just wonderful memories I have back then when early or late spring morning or early summer morning when they'd have the parade, you know, all 7 of my brothers and I would get up and we'd run out to Broadway and sit on the curb. And we'd watch the parade. And Mom would always call after us, don't forget, children, when the elephants go by, you be sure and come home. And we'd say, yes, ma'am, and I don't know, some of you folks may never have seen a circus, but the elephants were always the very last thing in the circus, you know, in the parade. And the big, long, single file string of elephants. And they, about 8 blocks away from our home, they had to cross a railroad track. And I recall this one particular day, just as this last elephant got on the track, the fastest train that ever came through Louisville came through at that same time, and you never saw such a mess in all your life. Cost that railway company $4,300,000. They only killed one elephant, but they pulled the tail off of 18 other ones. I remember my dad was telling us a story about one of those days when, to this day, I think he made it up, but he didn't tell it to me when I was just a little fellow. He waited till I was old enough to where he thought it was all right for me to hear a story of this nature. I think I was about 37. And he said that one of these elephants broke loose from a parade and got into a neighbor lady's backyard and got into her garden. And this is the part that I find hard to believe, but she said that she had never seen an elephant before in all of her life. So she reached down and she picked up the telephone and she called the police and said there's a great big animal in my backyard, in my garden. He said, what kind of an animal is it? She said, I don't know. All I can tell you is it has 2 tails. He said, two tails? And she said, yes, and he's pulling out my cabbages with one of them. And he said, well, what in the world is he doing with them? She said, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. I remember many times sitting there on the curb. I had a dream that I maybe someday would grow up and be a clown in a circus. Of course, my dream never came true. Well, it came half true. I grew up. And as a matter of fact, I did become a member of a circus. I was a performer. I was an aerial performer. In fact, I worked with my wife. We worked as a team, and we were known as Brooks and Brooks, world famous high trapeze artists. And I used to catch my wife in the act 2 or 3 times a night. I'm sorry, I can't think of any other way to phrase that. But in that particular art, there were those who swung and those who caught. And my wife was a swinger, and I was a catcher. Of course, she doesn't swing anymore, and I wouldn't know what to do if I caught her.
Foster, I remember the very first time we'll have to do this first, and we'll come back and talk about that.
All right.
Okay. You're all sobered up. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.